I think we can go ahead and get started now. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves. So, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Anthony Garcia, and I am a college access fellow out in the San Jose region. And I'm here with my awesome co host.
Hey everyone, my name's Amy. I'm the College Access Fellow in San Francisco.
And we're also being supported by.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carla Moran. I am the San Jose Program Manager, and then I'll pass it to Eli.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eli Weinsveg, and I'm the Director of College Pathways. Thank you for being here tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. So, a little bit about who we are. So, we are 10,000 Degrees. We are a college access to success nonprofit that supports students to and through college. A little fun fact about us is that we have awarded $6.7 million in scholarship to our students across our 8 Bay Area counties. So, yeah, little fun fact. And like I mentioned, what we do in short, we support students to and through college with everything from the college application process to financial aid, navigating scholarship opportunities, and also helping students transfer and with additional resources through their four-year journey. So yeah. So what we're going to be going over today. So we're going to be going over what is financial aid, what's important to know about it, the different types of applications that you're going to be seeing throughout the season, learning more about scholarships, and also what happens after you apply for financial aid. And with that, I'll go ahead and hand the mic over to Amy.
Yeah, Anthony. Okay, so let's get started. So what is financial aid? You're going to learn all about it today. So financial aid is any money that can be either gifted, paid, or lent to a student to pay for anything related to college. So we're going to get into what expenses could be going towards college expenses later on. And so you might be wondering, why financial aid? Why do we need to complete a financial aid application? So for folks who are a senior right now and they know they're going to go to college, they'll apply to a financial aid application, and that's perfect. However, for folks who might be a little bit unsure about what their plans are after high school, this leaves students having options after high school. So for example, if, say, a student, they don't know if they want to go to college afterwards, and they don't apply to a financial aid application, and then next thing you know, it's July or August, and they decide to change their mind. But then they didn't fill out an application for financial aid, so then they kind of miss all the deadlines. So they're not able to apply for financial aid for the year that's incoming. However, for a student who is unsure if they want to go to college, but then they do apply to a financial aid application, they still have that option to go to college and have their financial aid application completed. So then basically completing a financial aid application allows the students to have their options open, and students never know what they qualify for until they apply. So let's talk about some myths about financial aid, or just money in general for college. So some folks might say, I can't afford college, or I'm undocumented, I can't get financial aid, or even I won't qualify for financial aid. So for folks who might be thinking they can't afford college, there's actually a lot of grants and scholarships that students can apply for. For example, there's a lot of local grants or local scholarships folks can apply for. So for example, 10,000 Degrees is a local scholarship for us in the Bay Area. As well as like even McDonald's has a scholarship. I know some credit unions have a scholarship as well. For SF, there's a San Francisco Federal Credit Union that also offers scholarships to their students. So there's a lot, you just have to look for it. And then for folks who might think they're undocumented and they can't get financial aid, there's actually a lot of laws in California that helps undocumented students to receive financial aid and other resources. So for example, California DREAM Act, as well as the 10,000 Degree Scholarship, since we don't have a citizenship status eligibility. And then for folks who might just think they don't qualify for financial aid, so loans are actually a type of financial aid as well. And then students can also apply to as many scholarships as they want as well. So you might be wondering, where does financial aid come from? So it comes from the federal government. So for example, Pell Grant comes from the federal government. So for us, that would be the USA. And then there's also money that comes from the state government. So for example, California, for us, that would be Cal Grant A, B, and C. And then colleges and universities also give money. So for example, like when you apply to FAFSA and you indicate that you're interested in UC Davis, and then if you do get accepted into UC Davis, they'll also allocate money to students who are admitted to their school. And then there are miscellaneous sources. So for example, like scholarships, or if like your grandma gives you money, or if you have a piggy bank from when you were younger, and just money that you saved up, or money coming from parents as well. So then with all the different types of aid, there's gift aid, work study, and loans. So gift aid is money that is gifted to the student. So for example, if someone gives you a gift, you don't have to give the gift back. So if it's gift aid, the student doesn't have to pay that money back. So for example, that would be Pell Grant, Cal Grants, as well as the 10,000 degree scholarship. And then there's also work study. So that's money that students would have to earn through work. So for example, like working through the school library or the school office, maybe like the dining commons as well, or like a memorial union. And then there are also loans. So loans are borrowed money. So what that means is you would have to pay it back. So for example, if someone loans you something, you would have to give that person back what you borrowed from them. So for example, there's subsidized loans, unsubsidized, Parent Plus loans, and Dream Loan. So subsidized loans are loans that their interest rate doesn't start accruing until after graduation of college, and then unsubsidized loans, their interest rate starts accruing while you're in college. So a good way to remember subsidized and unsubsidized loans is think about subsidized as satisfied, but unsubsidized as unsatisfied. And then Parent Plus loans. So the parent would take out this loan instead, and their interest rate is a lot higher. So that's something to take into consideration of before applying for the loan. And then there's Dream Loan, which is basically like a subsidized loan for our undocumented students. Okay, so you might be wondering, what does financial aid pay for? So there's something called cost of attendance, which is basically like the total cost of what college could be. That's including tuition, room and board, meal plans, and like transportation or books and supplies as well. So there's something called filling in the need. So with the cost of attendance, we're gonna look at that, how much that is, as well as how much free money you're getting, how much financial aid you're getting, how many grants, work study, how many scholarships you're getting, and how much loans you're getting. And then we're gonna subtract that from the total cost, or the cost of attendance, and see how much school actually costs for your student. Okay, so we talked a lot about what types of aid there are. So these are the documents you will need to get started to apply for your financial aid application. I would highly suggest you all to get started on looking for these documents because, for example, like one of them would be your W-2s from 2022. That was a year ago. It might be somewhere hiding in your closet or somewhere hiding in a box full of taxes. So I would highly recommend you get started and look for those documents as early as you can. Okay. And then there's something called FERPA. So that stands for Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. So it's a federal law that protects students' information that they report in any financial aid or college application. So for example, if I complete FAFSA and I put UC Davis on there, UC Davis will get my information. However, if I don't put SF State on there, SF State has no way of getting my financial aid or financial information. Okay, so there's something called AB 469. So what this is it's a new law that requires students, graduating seniors, to apply to a financial aid application, so either the FAFSA or California Dream Act, in order to graduate high school. So every school is kind of handling it differently. So I would suggest you all to go to your 10,000 Degrees team or your counseling team at your school to figure out how your school is going about this law. Okay, so earlier I mentioned the financial aid applications, FAFSA and California Dream Act. So we're going to talk a little bit about those two applications. Okay, so there's FAFSA and there's California Dream Act. There's two applications, however, you only need to fill out one, whichever one is applicable to you. And then with your financial aid application, you'll need to fill it out every year. So for FAFSA, it stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. So this application is for students who are US citizens. So for example, if they were born in the US, or if they've been naturalized by the US, or if they're legal permanent residents. So for example, if they have the green card, and other eligible non-citizens. So for example, if folks were who were granted asylum from the US, they will be completing FAFSA. And this application allows students to access federal and state aid, so like Pell Grant, Cal Grants. And this application is going to be open in December, sometime in December. We're not quite sure when yet. More details to come, but party deadline would be April 2nd. Okay, so in FAFSA, there's something called an FSA ID. What that is basically like a username login. That's how you'll log into your application. That's how you'll legally sign it as well. And then in order to create your FSA ID, you'll need your social security number, a personal email address, so not a school email address, as well as your cell phone number. I would recommend you create a personal email just for college and financial aid items as well, just to keep everything organized. And then I would recommend also to create your FSA ID before you work on your application, because it takes roughly 3 to 5 days for the Social Security number or Social Security office to verify your Social Security number with your name. Okay, and then with FAFSA, there's something called multi-factor authenticator. So what that is, it's basically like a security thing for you to, for them to check that you're actually the one logging into your account. So for example, once you log into your account, you're either going to get a verification through your phone number, email, or like the app to verify that it's actually you who's entering your account. This is California Dream Act is the second type of financial aid application, and this is going to be for students who are AB 540, including folks who are undocumented, or folks who have a social security number because of DACA, TPS, or U visa. So for example, for folks who have a social security number or a social security card that says for work authorization purposes only, that so if folks have that, they'll be completing the California Dream Act. And then same as FAFSA, this application opens sometime in December and party deadline will be April 2nd. And this allows students to access state aid. Okay. Earlier I mentioned AB 540. So there's something called in-state and out-of-state tuition. So in-state tuition is a lot cheaper than out-of-state tuition. So for example, I'm a California resident, born and raised here. Been through K through 12 in California. So if I apply to a school in California, like UC Davis, and I get accepted, my tuition, say it's $30,000, compared to someone who's from New York, born and raised in New York, K through 12 in New York, and they apply to UC Davis as well. If they get admitted, their tuition would probably be like 3 times the amount. So say if mine was 30,000, theirs would be like 90,000 just for tuition. So clearly in-state tuition is a lot cheaper than out-of-state tuition. So what AB 540 does is that it exempts students from paying out-of-state tuition or being labeled as a non-resident for tuition purposes. In order to qualify for that, you'll need to have attended at least 3 years of California school, either through K through 12, community college, or adult school, as well as obtaining a California high school diploma, a GED, or having enough credits to transfer. Okay. And then on top of that, there is something called an affidavit, which is kind of like a confirmation form to verify that you've been in school in California for at least 3 years. And this used to be a separate form, but now it's going to be included in the California Dream Act application. All right, I'll have Anthony finish it up with other types of financial aid.
Thank you, Amy. An awesome job. So, yeah, kind of like how Amy alluded, financial aid, sometimes within the financial aid process, there's other things to take into account alongside the FAFSA or the California Dream Act, such as for my parents and guardians out there whose student is completing a private or an out-of-state school, there is the possibility that they will have to complete a CSS profile. This is through College Board, and what this is it's essentially an extension of their financial aid application that can be requested by the private schools. This profile has already opened. It opened back on October 1st, and it is very, very important that your student is doing the research to determine, one, if the school does require them to do a CSS profile, and two, when is that CSS profile due? It's going to differ from school to school, so making sure that those students have the deadlines sorted out is going to be very important. And unlike FAFSA and California Dream Act, which are free to apply, there is a fee associated with the CSS profile, that being $25 for the first school and $16 for each additional school. There are waivers available for the CSS profile for lower income families as well. Additionally to that, there's the middle class scholarship. So a student becomes eligible for the middle class scholarship if their income and assets, if the family income and assets is less than $217,000. In addition, this is going to be for our students who are attending a public four-year university, such as a UC or a CSU, and who have completed who have filled out a who have completed the FAFSA or the California Dream Act. The middle class scholarship itself is automatically applied for when you complete that application, and the status of it can be checked in your Students Web Grants for Students account, which I'm going to be going into more detail about. But the bottom line is that there's no separate application for the middle class scholarship. If you submit your FAFSA or California Dream Act and you meet the requirements, you're automatically applied for the middle class scholarship. And the amounts do vary depending on the cost of attendance of your school, and you usually hear back about that sometime in July or August. Additionally, another form of financial support that's offered is we as 10,000 Degrees host our own scholarship. So this year, our scholarship is opening on December 1st and has a priority deadline of March 2nd. Two big things about our scholarship that sets it apart. The first, no GPA requirement. So whether a student has a 2.0 or a 4.0, both are equally eligible. In addition, there is no citizenship requirement with our scholarship. So whether your student is filling out the FAFSA or the California Dream Act, both are eligible for the scholarship. It is a need-based scholarship, so it's highly recommended that your student completes their financial aid application before filling out the scholarship. So just something to keep in mind. And the way you would do that is you'd apply through our website, have your student create their portal, and then fill out the application from there. If any questions do come up, please, I highly recommend reaching out, having your student reach out to their fellow on campus. And additionally, we do help guide students through other scholarship or navigate other scholarship opportunities. We as 10,000 Degrees do have an outside scholarship webpage on our website. In addition, we also, if you parents and guardians, if you are looking for additional scholarships for your students to apply for, highly recommend reaching out to their counselor, college and career center at their high school. Even calling the colleges and reaching out to the colleges that the students are interested in, as there are colleges that do offer departmental scholarships for incoming students to their program. So if your student is interested in becoming a psychology major, then it's possible that the psychology department at their future college may have scholarships for incoming first years. And making sure that the scholarship process does not stop. Just because a student graduates from high school, it does not mean that they need to stop applying for scholarships. That can be done throughout the entirety of their college journey. Okay, so you've done your FAFSA, or you've done your California Dream Act, and maybe you've done your CSS profile. So what comes after this? What comes after the process? So to kind of give you an overview of how exactly financial aid runs its system, it starts with students applying for filling out their FAFSA or their California Dream Act. From there, given with the information in those applications, they are able to calculate what's known as the student aid index, which is, in short, how much a student is theoretically able to put toward their education. That number then gets sent to the colleges that are listed on the student's financial aid application. And the schools take a look at that student aid index and their total cost of attendance, do some calculations in order to put together a financial aid award package for the student, which then gets sent back to them for them to evaluate and speak and talk about with their family. Now, I made a small reference to this when I talked about the middle class scholarship, but web grants for students. So what this does is, so in addition to, so like Amy had mentioned, when you do your FAFSA, you are applying for both Pell Grant and Cal Grant. Web grants for students is your student's way of viewing the status and amount of their Cal Grant, so the money that they're getting from the state of California. For students who are completing the FAFSA, this is going to be a separate account. So once their FAFSA has been submitted and processed, they're going to be going to the website mygrantinfo.csac.ca.gov, and they're going to be making a new login for their web grants for students. If your student is completing the California Dream Act, then their web grants for students login is going to be the same login that they use for their California Dream Act application. And like I mentioned, this website is used for viewing the status of your Cal Grant, as well as confirming the school that your Cal Grant is going to be sent to, because what happens is that it defaults to the first school that is listed on the student's financial aid application. Additionally, there is the possibility that a student is selected for verification. And this is when colleges request documentation to essentially back up that what they said, what a student reported on their financial aid application is in fact true. So this typically happens between January and March, and this is going to be sent out through the to-do list tab on the student's school portal. So this is not going to be through the FAFSA or the California Dream Act website. This is going to be through each school's individual portal. If your school does not ask for this information, then you're fine. You don't have to worry about it if you're not selected for verification. If you are, they may ask you for things such as tax documents, so W-2s or transcripts, proof of household size, dependency status, and bank statements as well. So just something to keep in mind. Make sure that your student is checking their student portal for their colleges. Additionally, something else that they're going to be receiving through their student portals is their financial aid offer letters. So what this is it outlines not only the cost of attendance for each individual school, it also lists what financial aid that school is going to be providing to the student. And this can include things like their Pell Grant, Cal Grant, any additional institutional scholarships, as well as loan opportunities. When you receive these letters, typically, or your student will receive these letters for the four-year schools after they are accepted. So it's not after they apply, it's after they are officially accepted to a school. They usually receive their financial aid award letter shortly after, assuming everything has been submitted and processed. Community colleges are a little bit different. They do not receive their award letters until May or June. And like I mentioned, students can view this in their school portal or college portal, sorry. So I've been saying college portal, school portal. What exactly is this? Essentially, every college that your student is applying for is going to have them make their own account. So if your student's applying to Sacramento State, UC Davis, and Santa Clara University, then they're going to have a student portal for each of those schools. In this portal, it's going to have things such as their admission status, to-do list items, and tasks that they need to complete, and their offer letters once they become available. I highly recommend that your student is checking their college portals at least once a week, because there's a lot of deadlines that can be easily overlooked, and we want to make sure that students are getting all the possible resources and getting everything in as timely as possible so that nothing gets pushed back. So to kind of give you a general outline of what the financial aid timeline is going to be looking like. So right now, September through November is going to be all about researching and gathering the documents. So your students should be creating their college list, researching different scholarship websites, and or potentially applying, and just preparing for the financial aid application. Once December rolls around, the financial aid applications will be available, and that's when you should start. That's when they're going to start applying. They're going to also start creating their college portals around that time, and additionally, the 10,000 degree scholarship opens up. From January to March, it's going to be a lot of completing any to-do list tasks that pop up in their school portal, creating their web grants account once they've submitted their financial aid application, and also dealing with any verification information that they're gonna need to handle. Additionally, it's also going to be important. It's when they're going to start receiving, usually around March is when they start receiving their acceptance or rejection letters for school. And from March to May is going to be the opportunity for them to think on their decisions by by going to see the schools again, talking over with the family, taking a look at their financial aid offer letter and comparing what's being offered at the different schools. 10,000 Degrees does have an additional resource that can help students compare those. So we'll go ahead and drop that in the chat before the end of the session. And additionally, mark this in your calendar. May 1st, this is what's known as Decision Day. Across the board, this is the last day for students to officially commit to a four-year university. So whether it's a CSU, a UC, a private school, and out-of-state school, May 1st is the last day for them to submit to commit to a school. And summer is going to be a lot of submitting any final documents such as transcripts, accepting their financial aid offers, and it's usually when their financial aid starts getting dispersed out. Additionally, something that I also didn't get a chance to mention, and for the portals as well, it can definitely be a lot to keep track of, especially like I mentioned, 3 schools, 3 different logins. We also recommend students keep a password tracker to just save any headaches for when spring semester rolls around. They're like, oh, I don't remember exactly what my UC Santa Barbara login was. We do also have that under the tools section in the chat. Please highly recommend keeping a password tracker for your student, so then that way you don't have to deal with the headache of, okay, we need to reset the password every time we log in. So some events that we have upcoming for students and families that are going to be virtual, so super accessible. We are having this presentation again on November 29th. So let's say between now and then a question comes up and you want to have another discussion about it, or kind of like follow up and say, hey, like, what's the answer for this? We are going to be having this session again at the end of the month. In addition, we will be hosting financial aid submission workshops throughout January and March, where you'll be able to come in, you'll be paired up with a fellow, and they will help you with one-on-one support in submitting your application, or walking you through it, or just answering any last-minute questions you may have, even if it's just, hey, like, I went through my application, would you be able to look over it just to make sure everything is in order? All right. Well, thank you all for being such a good audience. With that being said, we'll now open it up for questions. So if any questions did come up for you throughout the entire presentation, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A box at the bottom, and we'll start going through them.
you.